This is a podcast from the British Library. For more information, visit www.bl.uk/podcast.
Jana Igunma is the curator of the Thai, Lao and Cambodian manuscript collections at the British Library. And she's published extensively on the history of the book and illustrated manuscripts from Southeast Asia. She is also, as some of you may know, the lead curator on the Buddhism exhibition, which is the sort of context in which this conference is taking place. And if you haven't been, I do recommend you go, and I think you'll find, perhaps after you see Jana's talk, how her intellectual and aesthetic judgment really shines through in that exhibition. So, without any further ado, Jana, please.
So my presentation today is about the Buddha and his natural environment in Southeast Asian manuscript art. I wrote this together with my colleague Sansan May, who was curator for Burmese collections here at the library. She has since retired, so unfortunately she cannot be with us today. She also co-curated the Buddhism exhibition with me together. So those of you who have been in the exhibition already may have noticed there's quite a lot of Burmese material, and it is there for a reason, and you will find out during my talk. I would like to begin with a short film, which can also be seen in the exhibition. It's about 2-3 minutes, but we will just play a short sequence here. So we created that film from a 19th century Burmese manuscript. It contains scenes from the life of the Buddha, Gautama Buddha, and so it's one of the many illustrated Burmese manuscripts that we have in our collection, and we are very happy to have. And you will have seen, so it's a very beautiful natural environment that the Buddha is set in here. And this is really what makes Southeast Asian manuscript art stand out. Sometimes when we open the Burmese or Thai manuscripts, we just get carried away and we forget to do our library work, so because they are just so beautiful and immersive. You just get carried away. The illustrations in the Buddhist context are very often related to text resources in Pali that came to Southeast Asia from Sri Lanka. But what really stands out is the depiction of the natural environment in which the Buddha, or sometimes the Buddha to be, is placed. And we think this really is done to highlight the close interrelationship or interconnectedness of the Buddha with his natural environment. I have included here a Sinhalese manuscript from Sri Lanka with 16 sacred sites in Sri Lanka. I think we have seen it yesterday already in Venerable Mahinda's presentation. So we can see that there is also a trace to the Sri Lankan art where the Buddha is also placed in his natural environment, and we can see among the sacred sites here at the top there is the Buddha Pada at Adam's Peak and Dambulla Cave, for example. So when we were looking at manuscripts from Southeast Asia, mainly Burma and Thailand, we found three themes that have those particularly beautiful illustrations that place the Buddha or the Buddha-to-be Bodhisattva in a beautiful and really outstanding natural environment. So one are illustrations of the Buddhas of the past. So Buddha is not a name of the historical Buddha, it's a title for an enlightened person, and in Southeast Asia, 28 Buddhas are known, their names are known, their enlightenment trees are known. So enlightenment of all these 28 Buddhas took place under one particular tree. It's not always the Bodhi tree that the Gautama Buddha achieved enlightenment under. They can be different trees. Also, their parents are known, so the lineage is very well known. Not by every practicing Buddhist, probably, but those who are really devoted Buddhists and study the scriptures. So enlightenment always happens in the shadow of a particular tree, so this is one very important feature. And in this Burmese manuscript from the 19th century that you can see there, there are illustrations of the 28 Buddhas, and so they are all quite similar. The Buddha on a throne, or on some sort of throne underneath the tree, and then flanked by two chief disciples and two devas. So another major theme where we find those magnificent natural environments are the Buddha's birth tales, or Jataka. So it's believed that Gautama Buddha lived 547 times before he was born as Prince Siddhartha and later achieved enlightenment. So these stories are very popular in all of Southeast Asia, particularly in Burma. Really, many people know them, but also Sri Lanka, so in other neighboring areas. So these stories are often used to educate younger people. They show how he gradually acquired greater virtues through those many different lives, how his moral stature grew from one incarnation to the other. They are also very popular as performances, puppet theater, shadow theater, TV series, children's programs. So they are in modern media very popular across Southeast Asia. So in these previous lives, the Buddha was not always reborn as a human. He could also be reborn in the form of animals. So here in this Burmese manuscript, again, we can see him as a golden goose sitting. You can see him quite well there on the top left quarter in front of an entrance to a cave. So caves are frequently appearing in these Burmese manuscript illustrations. You can also see this beautiful landscape there with forest, rocks, rivers, flat land. So everything what nature has to offer is there. So to have some sort of comparison with Thai manuscripts, they are slightly different in the format. So they are folded books as well, like the Burmese, but they open up from top to bottom. And usually they have two illustrations on one opening. So very popular are the last 10 birth tales of the Buddha, which are very well known as well. So often we have two illustrations of one Jataka in one folio, but sometimes we have two illustrations of two different Jatakas, so it depends how much space was available. Again, very immersive landscapes, sometimes maybe with some Chinese influence in those plants and flowers there. Water is also one very frequently and very popular feature, and small animals, which really bring some atmosphere of peace and calm into those paintings. So again, one example from Burma. The mythical region of the Himavanta is one very popular theme. So this is an imaginary region where Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and Devas can meet, and they can go there and meditate together. So here we have one birthday tale where the Buddha was an ascetic in this mythical Himavanta forest, and he had many disciples, and when he was close to his physical passing away, they asked him, what have you achieved in your life? And he replied, nothing. Meaning insight into the nothingness of the self. But they didn't understand it. They were confused. They thought he had lost his mind. So I think the painter really made this very clear, how confused they were. So we have this beautiful landscape in the forest, with the cave again at the top left corner with the passing Buddha, the passing Bodhisattva there. But they are scattered, and there is some kind of confusion. This looks to me a bit like a beehive or so. So it's a lot of movement there. I think this is a really well done expression of the confusion of the human mind. And then in this beautiful background, before this beautiful background, again with water, some rocks, and lots of green forest. So in Thailand, the last birthday, the Vesantara Jataka, is the most popular birth tale. It is very well known. Children in school learn about it. They learn how to play it on stage, like here in this country, nativity plays. It is actually the at the center of a festival, a very popular Buddhist festival in Thailand, in Laos as well, the Vesantara festival. So this is a festival held at Buddhist monasteries where monks, they bring out their palm leaf manuscripts, and then they recite the whole Vesantara Jataka, and the lay people, they create beautiful arrangements of plants and little landscapes that illustrate the tale of Vesantara. So I attended one last year at the Thai temple in Wimbledon, and it was just magnificent. The whole room was filled with green leaves and small trees and nature displays. It was just breathtaking. So here we have a manuscript with two illustrations from this Vesantara Jataka, which is quite a sorrowful story, because the Bodhisattva here, the Buddha in his previous existence, he symbolizes generosity, and he gives away everything. So he gives away his favorite elephant, then he gives away his beautiful small children to a beggar Brahmin. You can see that scene on the left side here. So at the top we see the Brahmin begging him for the children to become servants to his young wife, who didn't have servants, and she was mocked by the other women in the village. So the children at the bottom, left side bottom, they are trying to hide in the pond under those leaves, under the lily pads, and they beg him, "Oh, please don't give us away," but he gives them away, and out of compassion for the wife of this beggar Brahmin. So it's a really very sorrowful story. If you were to put it into a contemporary movie, it would probably be very very grey and dark and everything. But look at this, the beautiful environment. So we have a banana plant there. Then we have the lotus blossoms in the pond. Again, beautiful flowers on the left side where the Brahmin drags the children away. They really change the atmosphere completely. You don't feel the sorrow. So it kind of gives you an idea what will actually happen in the end. So in the end, they all get together again. So really highlighting this aspect, whatever sorrow you go through, it is not permanent. So just go through and concentrate on the beautiful aspects, like these natural surroundings here. So the third big theme is the actual life of the historical Buddha, Gautama Buddha. So this is a theme that is particularly popular in the Burmese tradition. Here in the library we have quite a good collection of Burmese manuscripts containing scenes from the life of the Buddha. Again, these are very colorful and outstanding quality as well. So the Buddha spent most of his life in nature. So he started as a meditator. So after he left the royal palace, he became a meditator, and later, after his enlightenment, he became a teacher, and really spent most of his life in natural environments, sometimes in forest hermitages. He was born in a grove. So this is a very, very popular illustration throughout the Buddhist world. So you can find this in many different countries. We have chosen it for our exhibition poster, the birth of the Buddha, from a Chinese manuscript, equally colorful. So this scenery is always the same. You can see Queen Maya, the Buddha's mother, in the left top corner, holding or getting support from the branch of the tree while giving birth to the Buddha, and then the Buddha is handed to the gods. So this is really the illustrations. They highlight the very close relationship between the Buddha and the natural environment. In Thai manuscripts, the life of Gautama Buddha is not so frequently found. Mostly we find here only the scene of his departure from the royal palace. We find scenes of his enlightenment in the earth-touching mudra. Then we find, so it's here on the left, and we find on the right one where the gods are asking him to, or convincing him to teach his philosophy or his dharma to all sentient beings. So that's a very popular image in Thai manuscript art. Another one is that can be found is the moment of his passing away or achievement of parinirvana. So here we suspect that two artists have been working together. So one painted the figures in the traditional Thai style, and the other one may have started experimenting with European landscape painting styles. So we find that quite frequently, especially towards the end of the 19th century. So, and again, in the Burmese tradition, there is much focus on events in the Buddha's life after his enlightenment. There are very detailed illustrations about him teaching, performing miracles, doing meditation, also his illnesses, and his passing away. So very, very clear ideas of his life as a teacher, and really always in a natural environment. So you can't find the Buddha in palaces or palace-like monasteries. So it's forest hermitages or some kind of throne in the shadow of a tree. Oh yes, and we can see here the Burmese manuscripts, they also very much emphasize the Buddha's relationship with animals. So here we can see the scene where the serpent Mukalinda protects him from heavy rain. So the Buddha had a very harmonious and supportive relationship with the animal world. He tamed an elephant, a wild elephant, with loving kindness, and so there are many such scenes. So, and like in some of the birth tales or Jatakas, again in the life story in the illustrated life stories of the Buddha, the mythical Himavanta region plays an important role, especially in Burmese manuscript painting. Like I said, it's an idealized place where Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and Arhats meditate, and it's believed that it can be reached by advanced meditators through the power of meditation. So again, we believe this is a metaphorical expression that symbolizes the interconnectedness between mythical and real world and humans and nature. So to summarize, Southeast Asian manuscript art conveys an important message that the Buddha is inseparable from nature. His relationship with nature is a mutually harmonious and beneficial one. We believe that setting the Buddha in this really outstanding, beautiful and peaceful natural environment creates a serene, calm atmosphere, even for scenes that may otherwise appear distressing or upsetting, like, for example, in the Vasantara Jataka that I mentioned. And manuscript art, similar to mural painting, is used as an expression of the interconnectedness between humanity and nature. So thank you very much for your patience.
You've been listening to a British Library podcast. For more information, visit www.bl.uk/podcast.